But I left the oil industry in 1998 on account of this. Upstream, I left from senior executive position in the upstream. There's nobody left in NNPC today who can argue with me for 10 minutes on national television on what it costs to produce crude, either on land, in the swamp, in the sea, on the desert. I've dealt with from what you call seismic studies, where you are looking for where you could find, to all of what you do in well development, to what you do in piping it around and processing it until the time you transport it and sell. But why did I leave? Because I came face to face with the document by which Shell and Mobil, Egypt, Earth were operating. And I said to myself, what could this mean? Does it mean we're not the owners of this land? That these foreigners will dictate the terms by which they operate? I'm sure you've seen their signposts, those of you who came from Port Harcourt area. NNPC Shell joint venture. Shell operator. Earth. Anyone you see, the operator is foreign. You have a business, a joint venture. You are not to know what it costs to produce whatever it is that joint venture has to do. It is that foreigner who will write down whatever he writes down, and whatever he declares as profit is what you now share. So I began to ask myself, how did we get to that? And it's not a 2-year contract, it was a 50-year lease. Signed off between 1967 and 1969 by people who could not even read properly what was written, under circumstances in which they just signed first and it was explained to them later. How did we even arrive at that point in 1967? We began to probe. It came to where I had to leave everything else to say let's even because we found out there was nothing to be found in our archives. We asked some of our elders, people with gray hair, people who went to negotiate the independence for Nigeria. I happen to have spent plenty of time with the last of them who were alive in course of the last 20 years at least. Enohoro, for instance, spent the last 7 years of his life trying to undo what they did in going to sign us up into this union. We shouldn't have been. But first things first, the research from the known to the unknown led us to where we had to go to. You know the way WikiLeaks gets its information? We had to get the information we were looking for by all means. We broke into the British archives using all available technologies. And by the time we saw what was in black and white, some of them with instructions that they should not be typed, because any day the wrong eyes see them, the whole edifice will come crashing down. Those documents are inside this room now. And we traced things from that way back to what became 1914. And from that 1914, before 1914, when we landed in 1900, when I'm sure some of you might have heard about the Royal Niger Company, that the British had to pay £865,000 to take over the trading areas in what they consolidated in readiness for the annexation of Southern Protectorate with the Northern Protectorate. That question of paying £865,000 at that time, somebody bought something from somewhere, and that person is still the owner of that piece of estate. Now your country, okay, take me to the map No, not that. The ones in black and white, the one of 1912. The ones in black and white. Scroll down, you'll see. But let's go on until they get there. The Nigeria you have, yes, hold it there. The Nigeria you have is a joint venture. You saw Prince Charles the other day, and he came. You saw the sitting arrangement. We've not moved from where we were as at that time they created the union. It was a business venture. It was the trade of the era to go to wherever you can, beat them down, take whatever you can. So the British, the French, everybody was doing their own everywhere. But what became Nigeria was where the British had come towards this axis, and they managed to make their first landings. I'm sure you know about the Lagos colony of 1861, how Kosoko and Dosumu, like that, the oil river.